If it wasn't for Black women, not only in the church, but in society at large, we would not have a keen sense of what freedom is.
The women ran the church. They did everything behind the scenes and everything on Sunday morning to get ready for what some might consider showtime. They just weren't in the pulpit on Sunday morning. And if it wasn't for the women, if it weren't for the strength and perseverance of the women, we wouldn't have the church that I knew growing up.
If Sunday all the Black women in the Black church decided to leave, I would basically take a text that says, "Finally, my brethren, farewell." Because Black women have so infused and energized the Black church.
And if it wasn't for the women, I wouldn't feel that women have a voice in ministry, and certainly I do.
So womanist theology and Black women are essential to the very lifeblood of what we mean by the Black church, the Black religious experience, the Black community. They stand at the heart of it.
For Black women at the crossroads of the ivory towers of the academy and the stained glass windows of the Black church, the 1980s was a time of self-definition. In 1983, the African-American writer and poet Alice Walker coined the term womanist. The creation of this confessional concept was a significant moment for women who found themselves called to teaching in the learned guilds of religion and to ministry in the church.
You don't start off saying, let's be the ones to create womanism. You find yourself in a particular context where there are no Black women's voices and there's no scholarship by Black women, and that you find yourself invisible, and that you find in fact, that your voice is not wanted and not heard.
Black women do have voice, even in an institution that said that we didn't, that we were not in history books, that we didn't have a place in the church. And it was through that engagement over a period of time of meeting other women who were in little silos of institutions or in churches that I learned the importance of voice for all people.
One of Jim Cohen's students challenged her professor by pulling his coattail and saying, "Hey, guess what? You Black liberation theologians, you forgot something. You know, to free African Americans who've been under oppression, with the focus only being on freeing the male, you sort of left out half of God's creation here."
Women all over the world began to challenge me, but it started at home with womanist theology and Black women here at Union. Katie Cannon, Jacqueline Grant, Dolores Williams, Kelly Brown Douglas, Joanne Terrell, all of these people contributed to my constant development of Black liberation theology.
A womanist tradition introduces a critical listening to all things. That's actually challenging, and I think probably strengthening to people who can no longer presume affirmation of everything they say. Women, that's one thing. Black women, that's a whole nother thing.
Taken from the Black Southern expression, "You actin' womanish." Mamas, nanas, aunties, church mothers, and other mothers confirmed, critiqued, and challenged their girl children to ensure that they not only survived, but thrived in a world often configured to destroy their creativity, intelligence, and womanhood.
The word womanist just caught fire for all of us. It was different from feminist. It was our word. It was what our mothers would call us, meaning that we were sassy, meaning that we were courageous. So womanist comes from the Black kind of Southern folklorist way of talking about you are womanish, meaning that you are fast. It means that you are bold. It means that you break boundaries and you don't mind doing that in order to accomplish what you have to accomplish.
Womanism gave me a language. It gave me a way of naming my own experience. In a society that does not privilege Black women's knowledge production process, but rather typifies and culturally represents Black women as less or substandard or subhuman in a variety of ways.
So while the term womanist was introduced to the world in the 1980s, its meaning encompassed the lived experience of generations of Black women in America. Women who, like their biblical foremothers, were legally, socially, and even spiritually relegated to the edges of the church and society. These women, by mother wit, sheer will, and passionate determination, charted their own course, rewriting definitions of what it means to be black, female, and made in the image of God.
Katie Cannon and Dolores Williams, Joan Martin. These were the people that made me excited about being a theologian. They are the figures that gave life to my blood and thought, this is what it means to be a church engaged.
We're the only ones we've been waiting for. It's not going to change unless we change it. It's not going to heal unless we heal it. In my congregation, which is multiracial and multicultural, I lead my congregation with a womanist sensibility. We're always thinking about how to story the gospel by any means necessary. And in a multiracial, multicultural church, the conversations about race and ethnicity and difference and class take on all kinds of nuances. And I think womanism, I'm thinking especially about Alice Walker's definition about we love all the people. And we understand that our cousins are, pink and beige and chocolate brown like me. That has been so important to me as I think about rehearsing the reign of God here on earth.
And trying to help people understand what hermeneutics means. I'll have people in the classroom stand away from the window, stand back here, and tell me as you look through that window, what do you see? And they will give you what they see from this perspective. Then I'll have another student come up, right up on the window, who can see much more than the one from back here. And their description is so beautiful, widespread. 99 times out of 100, nobody will say, I see a window pane. Hermeneutic is what pane are you looking through? What is framing your perspective? And a female womanist perspective is not an African American male's perspective. It's not a black liberation theologian. It's female.
So the viewpoint of black women is essential for full understanding of what's going on in the world, as well as what God's Spirit is trying to stir up amongst the people.
Because women represent more than half of the African American community and more than half of black people all over the world. So why are you going to X that out? You can't X that out. To X that out is to X out humanity.
When I called my first assistant pastor, it was a woman. And I had one of the leaders of the church, a woman, say to me, well, what are you going to do when you want a real minister? I said, pardon me? Because she didn't see a woman as a real minister. But I found that she was not an anomaly, she was normal.
When women are called to preach, the first thing that we say is, no, not me. We wrestle with our own internalization. But as soon as we're able to push past that, dare go into the church, dare go before the congregation and say, God too has called me to preach. The first line of defense is oftentimes one who looks just like her. Do you not know your rightful place? And of course, the very instinct is for us then to say, oh, women are the greatest opposition. Women aren't the greatest opposition, patriarchy is.
I never will forget one Sunday I was preaching and one of my favorite womanist scholars, my sister, who I love so much, I was up preaching and I made a statement related to Sarah in scripture, and she texted me immediately and said that you don't want to say that. That is offensive. That is oppressive. And the more I took a step back and looked at it, the more it dawned on me I was a contributor at that moment through the homiletical moment to oppressing the dominant majority in the congregation. And as their senior pastor, I don't want to contribute to that oppression. So womanism helps us to reframe our language. Womanism helps us to be more communal.
It was seeing women in a church where the women led the deacon board, where there were women who flooded the pulpit, and not just a male pastor as a figurehead there on Sundays, that finally helped me to open up to the fact that women are being called, old and young, married and single. Women are being used by God, and I finally accepted what I now know to be a call.
The womanist tradition gave me more of a sense of urgency to lift the black church out of its sexist orientation.
One lady in her 90s, I think she was 96 at that time, said to me outside of the church that day with such glee, "I'm so glad I lived to see this day. I just thought it would never happen in my lifetime." I thank God that womanism gave me the strength to stay the course, that she would live to see that day, and that I would be a part of her experience.
What manner of woman is this? These are women who are bold, who are courageous, who are unapologetic.
When I think of what manner of woman this is, I think of particular, peculiar, prophetic, passionate, prolific women who stand on their principles and articulate the wit and wisdom of black women before we came and make way for women that will follow us.
You know, as somebody who steps into the church, I come as a lover. I come as one who breathes prayer because I believe it changes people and therefore changes the world. And I think that is womanist work.
So what manner of woman is a womanist? A womanist is wise. Yes, she's radical, but she's traditional. Yes, she's self-loving, but she's engaged. Yes, she's subjective, but she's communal. She's redemptive, but she's critical. Womanism is what the black church needs. I would dare say is what America needs if we're truly going to embrace the best of who we are as a people who believe that we were all fearfully and wonderfully made and equally created by God.
We must now honor, affirm, and support voices, womanist voices, and other voices who support a holistic vision of freedom and justice for all people.
So the black church, for me, needs black women, but more than that, we need black women out front, leading. We need black women manifesting all of the gifts they bring to the table.
And there's many doors left to open. We need more African American women's presence in the student body. We need more funds to be supporting women to go into the ministry. We need more funds for scholarship. We need a whole faculty full of womanists. That would be glorious.
When I'm teaching and preaching, I always tell people, we grow a God who starts with us. We don't know God except through how we experience God. So this place of lived experience and creating ethics in story has huge implications for the academy, but especially in congregational life, where our job, I think, is to grow a theologian in everybody who sits in our pew.
Womanism is a mission to make the church whole again and to bring the wisdom that is necessary for us all to be liberated and for none of us to be left behind.